Hey everyone, today we're going to build a castle window for a haunted house or a stage production, something you might do for your town or even just on the side for your own personal Halloween setup in your yard. So let's get into how to make a castle wall with a window. First thing to do are cut out your framed sides. So we have a 5-foot and 3-foot pieces to make the squared frame. So let's put that together right now. One thing to note is I drilled some pilot holes so that the screws going in won't split as we're building this frame. So all I'm doing is starting the screws. They're not going all the way through, but it'll make everything a lot easier assembly. Line up the corners, keep flush and plumb. Now last corner, make sure everything's flush and plumb. And there we go. Square frame put together. Now we're going to cut some pieces for the window, referring to the diagram for the different sizes, 2 14-inch, 2 16-inch, and 2 12-inch to frame everything together. Okay, we got some of those window pieces cut. We're going to start placing them. And then again, we're going to pilot hole 2 holes for the screws to go in so it doesn't split any of the wood, and assemble from the bottom up and then center it on the bottom of the frame. So it'll be nice because then the whole window will be done, and then all we have to do is screw it into the frame and then put the side supports on. Now, one thing to note with the window pieces, the tops of the peaks actually, they're going to sit on top of the straight pieces, kind of like a field goal, but you're going to want to do 45 angle cuts. So there's the window. As you saw, these side pieces, as I said, you want to cut on the diagonal so that they'll lay just how you want it. Again, the peak, we could spend time and angle that, cut that, but to be able to drill this quick and fast, the 2 end pieces were kind of variable, somewhere between 9 and 10 inches. And that's why we left that, because depending on that like minimal amount of cut space on each piece of wood, that's gonna differ. So those you might wanna measure to size, which is simple, easy enough, and then chop them on the miter saw, good to go. Based on our diagram image, that is gonna be how we frame it and back support it, and then of course that's going to be your central window. So now I do want to reiterate, without being repetitive, drilling those pilot holes really helps, especially when working with 2x3s. Now we're going to put the facade on. We got some leftover cut off fence pieces to do the bottom. Then we're going to get a piece of Luan and shape the top, do some spray foam on that to give it texture. I'm going to go into detail with that, and then spray paint. Here we have our extra cut off pieces of fencing. We redid our fence, so we had some extra pieces. This is going to go great on the bottom side of this window. And then we're going to also use it for some decking in front of the window for cannon turrets. Now, if you want more information on how to build prop cannons, check out my channel as well. That video is right alongside this one, and I'm going to link it below as well. I'm just going to mark using one of these as a ruler, and then there's your straight edge. Cut, cut, cut. The reason I'm not just measuring all 6 and cutting it is because there might be some variable change on each end. So they might not all be cut at the same exact length. One side would be, but the other side might be slightly different than the other. So double check. Measure twice, cut once. Perps and parallels. So that is the first section of our facade, giving that wood base kind of under trim, wainscoting kind of effect. And we're gonna just drill those in with 1 5/8 screws. One of those. This is just a little small guy. And then this is just to tack it on. Bing, bang, boom. Okay, those are all screwed in, good to go. And now we're just gonna measure and cut our Luan piece, put that on. So coming along pretty nicely. If this has been helpful to you and the project you're doing, hit that subscribe button, like. Let me know in the comments what you might use your castle wall for. Here comes your piece of Luan. This can be very cost effective when doing walls and scenery like this. It's very thin, So it's still strong because it's plywood, but it's light. So if you're doing this for theatrical design, it's a lot lighter when trying to move those set pieces on and off stage. This is 4x8 piece of Luan, and we need 39 inches to get across because it's 3 foot plus a few extra inches because of the width of the frame. So when cutting with a jigsaw, you want to be aware of where your cable is. You don't want to cut through your cable and lose your power. I've seen videos on Instagram, etc., of people like trimming hedges and they just cut their cable while they're hedge trimming, and it, like, dude or dudette, just like figure out where your cable is so you don't cut it. Anyway, trace this out, pretty easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have our Luan cut with the accents. We're gonna rasp the edges, smooth it all out, and then we're gonna screw it on with those 1 5/8 screws. You can make pilot holes. I am not, but you have to be very careful, especially if you're using an impact drill. Go nice and slow. When you see it starting to get to the peak of the screw, just really slow it down, and you shouldn't split it too much, if at all. Da, da, da. So 1 at the top and the bottom, and at every quarter length. Okay, now that is all screwed together. We're gonna take this outside. The messier work, like the foam and the spray paint, we're gonna do outside. And I'll go through how to do that spray foam, the expanding foam. Here's the spray foam. Simple, cheap, it's like $3 a can. You want to do the edges, and then you don't have to fill all in. But right where those edges are, you're going to want a decent amount. And you might be thinking right now, this is not going to be good. What the heck is this going to even be? But I'll show you. Because right now, yes, just kind of looks like noodles on plywood. This is going to be a generous portion. You could use 1 can per wall. You could also stretch this and get 2 cans per wall. Or half a can for the wall. And you can see this foam is already expanding right along this edge. Pretty much done. Now, a piece of cardboard, kind of as a putty knife or a palette or a painting knife. The right angle is so you can keep your hand away from the tabletop or the wall top. You're going to pull it and spread it. Now, it doesn't have to be thick because it is expanding foam. So even the thinnest little bit is going to expand. So start by like matting it down, and you're already getting all these nice little textures in there. Look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. And then if you want to skim the edge, right on the edge of the window, that'll create nice rock texture. Yeah. Then just pat that down. And then all of this is going to look nice and textury. Now, it doesn't spread like you would think, like a drywall or something. So you can't push too hard. You know, just give it a nice little gentle touch. You know, just a whisper. And then you see this? You can smear like that, and it's going to create nice little brick lines. Look at that. It doesn't look like much now, but when it expands, you'll see what that does. Mat that down. Again, these edges, if you want to build them up a little, just put some there. And then just press and drag. Yeah. See that? It kind of stretches it. That's going to look good. Now you could use a solid piece of foam and sculpt stone, but that's more expensive. Solid piece of foam like that can be $50 to $100. But for $3. You know, if you're doing this for a community, you don't have a huge budget, this is a good way of getting a similar effect. Yeah, just like that. Spread it out. Do one little streak here. Yeah. And that's it. So between pressing and pulling to get these nice little spread areas. And then all of this is going to kind of expand and look like texture. So now we got to let this sit. Let me mat down a couple of these big spots. You don't want it too chunky. But again, if this is old castle, you know, stones aren't going to be perfect. So, okay, you can see how this dried pretty nice. Still got to fully harden up. But you see those streaks? So I was saying they give a nice horizontal brick texture. Doing those little pulls. That's what I was kind of talking about. Then overall, it adds a nice gravelly look. We're going to use black to prime it. The main color is going to be blue with some purple accent. And then we're going to also use some of this silver metallic. And you want to try to give a nice even thin layer, but because of the texture, you want to go kind of up and down and side to side so you don't have any weird white spots. So we're going to let that dry a bit. Then we're going to go into a coat of blue. That's a nice layer of blue. But if you really look closely, there are some areas where it's still a little black, but that's okay, because that'll help with the shadowing in light. Now for the purple, we're going to do kind of brick lines. So we're going to do the edges, and then some horizontal, and then some spiking up and down and left and right. So it'll take the form of bricks, castle bricks. See how we did this, like staggered brick motif. Some horizontals and verticals. To make that pop even more, we're going to add silver. Essentially what this is going to do is when you put light on this, whether it's stage lighting or haunt lighting, those different tones and contrasts will pick up nicely. And the silver will help it reflect. So kind of going back over this like it's mortar, so to speak. Now you don't want to go over the purple. You kind of want to go next to it, like a shade. And then that helps all those contrasting lines show up a little better and gives it that really nice stony look. Now again, in full lighting, this looks a little rudimentary, but once you get it in the dark with stage appropriate lighting, it looks awesome. Well, there it is. The finished wall, all painted up with the brick, the different contrasting colors, backdrop, all put together. Now this easily screws into the other two panels we have, and that will be a 3-walled panel with windows. So that'll be a really cool room in this castle haunt. You have the cannons kind of in the turrets. We have cannonballs, we got ropes, we got all kinds of like crates and theming that we can do that way. So this is a really quick, easy, affordable way to make some of these castle walls, like I said, either for your town haunts or stage plays, scenery, that sort of thing. It works out really well, especially the lighting hitting this, kind of reflecting that contrasting color, which is really nice. Hopefully this gave you some tips, some insights on how to do this. There's a lot that goes in to like a haunted house or stage production, from design to fabrication, and then also knowing some things about the lighting that's actually going to reflect off of that when you do the paint. So all aspects of the build are very important when doing something like this. So take into account some of those things, and if you're not as creative, hopefully this inspires you to roll up your sleeves, do something, and build. So that wraps it up. I'm Ryan Lehman. I hope this DIY castle window wall was very helpful to you. Hit subscribe, leave a comment, like, and we'll see you on another build project, and we'll see you in pictures.